Hello, hey, how's it going? It's time to learn about 1 point perspective. We've talked a bit about it, and I know you've done this little exercise so far, or if you haven't, you better do that, or else you're going to be lost and not know what to do. But this, this is not normally how people do perspective drawings. This is just the system and the rules. But today we're going to see the more practical application of what that's all about. We're going to use a vanishing point. We're going to use orthogonals. We're going to draw shapes. We're going to do all that same stuff. Ooh, just bumped my computer. But today we're going to kind of do it on steroids. No, we're not going to take steroids. We're going to do something a little more ambitious and make it look like a real scene. So today we're going to draw a 1 point perspective exterior, which is an outside scene. So let me show you what we're going to do here. Check this out. Share my screen with you. I mean, the big goal, again, today, to learn how to draw a 1 point perspective interior. All right, let's get to it. Keep in mind that I will be showing you how to do this in 2-point and even 3-point. But for today, we just need one vanishing point, okay? So first, let's take a look at kind of the finished product. Here's what we're going to aim for, not today, but these are finished examples of 1-point exteriors done by students that sat in my class. So this one here, you can see, well, actually you can't see where the vanishing point is, but if you follow a couple of lines back in space, you'll kind of see where it's located. It's always strange to me that no one ever lives in these places. It's just empty. That's a cool looking town, but no one lives there. So my one hope for you, if you decide to do a 1-point exterior and a scene, something like this, is to put some life in it, okay? And it could be as simple as a person's shadow, or a mouse scurrying across the street, or some tumbleweed, or something to give it some visual noise, not actual noise because it's a drawing, but some visual noise. Maybe some birds are in the sky, just something. Here's another great drawing. No one lives there. In this case, you can see the vanishing point, so you can see where the orthogonals go back in space toward that point. At the end of the day, I would prefer that you don't have a point there. Try to erase it so that no one can see your trickery, is that a word? I don't know. Your artistry, your magic, okay? Let's look at another. Again, no one lives there, boring. But it's actually a good drawing. You can see the vanishing point way up here this time. You see, the vanishing point is, well, you place it wherever you want. It's your prerogative. It's your perspective. That's the word, perspective drawing. So it's how you see things. This is where you're looking, or where you want people to look. Here's another. This person was nuts. I mean, look at how many buildings they drew with tons of different details and textures and patterns. This is like a huge metropolis and no one lives there. Man, I would love to see just a hot air balloon up in the sky or something, even some little cars or people on the street. Here's another. This one does have some life to it, some superheroes scattered throughout the scene. Great composition, great use of values, lots of different details and patterns. This one actually went into the annual art show that we have here at the park. Here's a different view. It's still an exterior, but notice how this time we're looking down. And never mind this kind of photographed odd because the colored pencil had a glare. But in fact, there was a little silhouette of a person drawn down here. So this is kind of a morbid scene, right? Looks like someone jumped. Don't ever do that. But I do like the view. I like how it looks, like you're way high up and you're looking down. It's just slightly different from an exterior where it's like this, where you can see the horizon. Well, you can't quite see the horizon, but we call this the horizontal view or horizon view, whereas this is the zenith view, like or nadir view. We'll get to that later, but it's like you're looking down from above. And here's one more. This is actually a professional's drawing. It's a sketch. So it's not finished, but you get the same sort of view. There's a vanishing point. We have lines going toward it, but instead of the horizon view, it's a different view. So I'm not going to demonstrate this type of view today. We're going to go with the horizon view. So now it's time to switch over to my document camera. You need to grab a few things before I do. Make sure you've got a pencil. Duh. You need an eraser, not just for fixing mistakes. We're going to need that eraser to get rid of lines that we don't need. You'll see in a minute. You need a sketchbook, obviously, or some paper, and you're going to need that straight edge. Okay, so if you got a plastic triangle from me, now's the time to get it out. If you have a ruler, great. You could even take a piece of paper and fold it 3 or 4 times, and you'll have a straight edge for your pencil to run along or against. So here we go. Follow me. All right, first thing we're going to do is put a heading on this. Right at the top, will you write down 1 point exterior. That X, of course, is means like exit, you know, outside. So if you're ever painting your house someday, make sure you're grabbing, if you're doing the outside of your house, you grab exterior paint so it will last longer. Well, that would be awful if you painted the outside of your house with interior paint and then a big rainstorm came along and washed all the paint off. So it's important to know the distinction or the difference. All right, get ready. Here we go. Just like the other day, when we did a drawing like this, we're going to start with, well, 1 step before we put the vanishing point down. This time, we're going to put a horizon in our work. Do this lightly. Well, let's just go, to keep things simple, right about in the middle of your page. Now, you'll notice I didn't make mine exactly flat because we don't live in Nebraska. Around here, you might have a little bit of undulation, some rolling hills or something. But again, do that lightly because we're going to be drawing things on top of that horizon and eventually we'll erase some parts of it. Next, we're going to do step 2, which is to put a vanishing point in this work. Your vanishing point really could go anywhere, but typically it lines up right on the horizon. So there we go. There's our vanishing point. Don't press really hard and make it really dark. I made it dark so you could see it, but later we'll be erasing that so you don't even know where the vanishing point is. All right, next, let's draw some shapes. Boy, this is sounding familiar. This is just like the steps we did the other day. In fact, maybe I'll keep this over here so you can kind of refer to that. It's time to draw shapes. All right, so I'm going to draw a square over here. And I'm going to use my plastic triangle. A good way to make something that is square is to use the corner of your triangle, if you have one. If you don't, no worries. So right down here, I'm going to go like this and like that. And I can just turn this over and do that again. So you can see my whole piece of paper, hopefully, and that's where I'm drawing my square. Let's get this out of the way for now. That's going to be distracting to be under my paper. There we go. All right. So over here, I'm going to draw a tall rectangle, sort of like maybe it'll end up being an office building. So I'm going to do that both above and below my horizon line. Maybe like this. Move it way over to the right and go above and also below the horizon. I'm going to make this a little bit wider, maybe like this. That'll work. Okay. So I've done very much like this. I've drawn some shapes. Well, let's do one more. Let's do something more complex and let's put a triangle on top of this house. Now, don't do it quite yet. If you just wanted to, I guess you could just fake it and draw a triangle, but it might not be a perfect triangle. It might not be centered over the top of the roof. So I'd like to introduce you to what I call the X trick. Now, I'd like you to make an X very lightly because we later will be erasing this. Very lightly, make an X right through this square. There we go. And the beauty of that is we just found the center. I don't know if you can see this line, it's very light, but I drew an X. And it's much the same as if you had a square piece of paper and you folded it in half on the diagonal 2 different ways. Like if you were doing some origami, for sure you could find the very center of the paper the same way. But here's why we're doing this. Here's the beauty. We're going to take a vertical line straight through this point, right up here, and just make a line. It's on this line that the rooftop would be. So instead of just faking it and trying to figure out kind of where it kind of is in the middle, we can mathematically figure that out. And how tall you make it's up to you. Maybe this is a tall church steeple, or maybe it's very shallow like this and it's just a barn. So somewhere along this line, you're going to pick a point, and on that point, you're going to play connect the dots from this point to here, and from this point over to here. Now I can hear you already. Some of you are saying, man, that's a lot of work just to get a triangle on top of a house. I think I'll just freehand mine. Well, it's good to know this system, because when we do this in, say, 2-point perspective or 3-point perspective, we can use this same trick. And it's going to be a little bit different, a little more ambitious. Plus, if I were doing this for a client, for sure, I would want it to be perfect and make it mathematically correct, not just kind of guess. All right, so you might have a little bit of extra, lines up here. We can get rid of those. You could get rid of your X trick, but to be honest, I would kind of keep it there, just so you remember how to do this. I mean, this is your notes. Or if you want, just maybe here in the corner, just make a little box and make an X and just write X trick. I mean, that's what I call it. Maybe I don't think it has a name. It's just it's the X trick. All right. So now, now I've got a square, I've got a triangle, I've got a rectangle, very similar to what we did the other day. And now it's time for the next step, which is to draw our orthogonals. So again, just like the other day, don't draw through your shape. There's only 1, 2, 3 that can go toward this vanishing point, 3 orthogonals. So when you're ready, line them up. And to be honest, much like origami, the more you take your time and make them perfect, the better the result. Now, don't do this too dark. I'll tell you a little secret. We're going to be erasing some of this. Here's another and another. There we go. So now it looks like that house goes on forever off into the distance. We might as well tackle this one too and draw 2. In this case, we just have 2 corners that can see that vanishing point. Let me get this out of the way really quick. All right, here we go. Now, you might even get into this habit, since you know you're going to erase some of these. Just send it that way, but just lighten up your pressure on your pencil, and you don't have to draw all the way to the corner. So that's a good habit to get into. Just gonna kind of send it that way and just loosen my pressure. Hopefully you can see that these 2 lines are angled right toward that point. All right, now it is time for step 4. Remember that from the other day, our parallel line trick? Let's start with this easy one here. We've got this line right here. We need another parallel to that. So you don't want to just throw a line in kind of willy-nilly anywhere. Like, it needs to be parallel, right? So one thing you could do is put your straight edge right next to it and just back it up. Of course, you have to decide, how deep is this building? Is it really short like this? Is this like a cereal box? It's really tall, or does it go back this far? Is this a strip mall? I'll make mine right about here, I guess. Maybe here. But I do want to ensure that this line and this line are going the same direction. Not tilted. There we go. That works. And maybe I'll just mess with this one a little bit more. I'm going to erase any additional orthogonals that are there. I might as well get rid of this too, so it doesn't look like a glass building. Don't throw stones at glass buildings. There we go. All right, so this one's a little more difficult. And if you want to move ahead because you're super smart and you know what to do, then you can move ahead. But what I'm going to do is, maybe I'll start with this side here. It's much like this one. I'm going to put my straight edge on here, move it back, not tilting it or twisting it, but moving it back so it is parallel. I think it goes about that far back. That works for me. All right. Now to make the roof, obviously I have to start here and go up, but some people guess and they're like, you kind of go like that or something. Guys, gals, there's no guessing. There's an answer. All right. I'm going to put my straight edge on this side and realize, oh yeah, I've got to go that direction. So you just back it up until you hit that line, making sure that this back part of the roof is at the same angle, what we call the pitch, the same pitch of the roof as the front. Hey, there we go. See how those two are parallel, same direction? And if you did that correctly, well, congratulations. Maybe this is your first time making a 1-point perspective house that looks kind of realistic and it's 3D and it's going back in space. Of course, we can do step 5 here and erase these orthogonals so no one can see your artistry. There we go. And there you have it. We've got what kind of looks like a building and a house. This is kind of strange, but yeah, a big building next to a house in the middle of nowhere. All right, let us do some shading and details. In fact, let's do something else first. Let's have a little fun. I'm going to put a road coming right through the middle of these. And watch how I make this road. It's actually all orthogonals. I'm going to make one line, and I'm going to make another one close to it. Don't do that quite yet. Let's back this up. Got a different vision. I'll keep this line. Hopefully you didn't do that second one yet. All right, I'm going to do it this way. I'm going to make a little sidewalk too. All right, sidewalk, and then another line. So we're going to have a curb. So let me zoom in a little bit there so you can see what's going on. I've got a sidewalk, a curb. Then I'm going to make my street. And another curb on this side. And the sidewalk. Trying to make it about the same width as this one. So every line I just made, those 6 lines are all orthogonals. Yes, I wasn't too careful back here, but should have done that a little more carefully. So maybe I'll give this last line one more go. And that's what I mean about, yes, even Mr. Linderman makes mistakes. I get excited about this stuff and start drawing too fast. All right, let's do one more here. Yeah, again, just like origami, take your time. Better folds, make a better crane. Better lines, make a better road. All right. Now we can start to dress this place up. Tell you what, let's put some things on this building here. So what I'd like to do is put a door on the side. Now, check this out. We don't even need to worry about perspective if it's on this side. And here's what I mean. You don't have to worry about orthogonals and vanishing points. This side is what I call a basic side. You can just use verticals, horizontals. Let's make this a double door. So it's kind of a large office building, it looks like. There we go. Make it look like it's glass or something. You can always look at the perimeter. Check this out, follow my pencil. The perimeter of whatever shape you're drawing in, like this rectangle, and it will tell you, okay, we need vertical lines and we need horizontal lines. So anything you put in here, let's just say there's a sign right here. Let's just make a big sign that tells us what kind of building this is. You're using horizontals, you're using verticals. Let's just make this, you can make it whatever you want. I'm just going to call it the bank. All right. So maybe there's some windows up here. I'm just going to just add a few lines like there's lots of windows. Could make some more horizontals like this. We could get a lot more detailed, and of course I could go on and on and on. I'm not going to waste too much of your time drawing tons of details, but do write down right here, just write down basic. And what I mean to say is you don't need to use perspective. It's just like normal, like you did when you were a kid and you drew stuff. Same with this side here. Let's put some details on the front of our house. We could even do it like you did when you were a kid and just put a door, maybe right up the middle here. There we go. Let's put a door handle there. And you can make a window or something over here. You don't need perspective. This too is a very basic side. Well, you could put some lines on your window if you like. You can make another window. Heck, we could make this a log cabin and make some just horizontals. You could throw a circle up here. I used to do this when I was a kid. I'd make a, what we call a Mandela window. There we go. So I'm not going to do a ton of details right now. Just make a note. This side is a basic side. All right. Now, let's talk about these sides. These are going to be a little different scenario. And again, the rule is look at the shape you're drawing in. So in this case, if I look at it's kind of like a trapezoid shape. It does have verticals, so I'll definitely need some verticals. But when I go to draw the tops of things or the bottoms of things, they're going to be going toward that vanishing point. So why don't we, let's put a big door over here. Let's make like a garage door. That'd be cool. So you don't need to guess, but you do need a couple verticals. So let's start with those. I'll draw a vertical right here and another one right here. So that's kind of giving me an idea of how big that garage door will be. Now, to make the top of the garage door, just like the top of this building, here's the difference. Now we need to go toward that point. This might seem a little strange at first, but I'm going to go this way, right toward that vanishing point. So hopefully you're seeing that. And then you can erase any additional parts that you don't need. So we just have our garage door here. So if we just look at this shape here, that's kind of a strange shape. Like you wouldn't know how to do that and just drawing it freehand. Like you have to have perfectly vertical lines and lines that go to the vanishing point. In fact, let's make this have 4 sections. Can you guess maybe how we could get this to have 4 even sections? Well, one thing we could do is we could look at this space right here and we could divide it in half. And we could divide this section here in half and in half so that this segment here has 4 equal parts. This is just one way to do it. We could also use the X trick, but we're going to get to that another time. So hopefully you've done that. You've divided this segment from here to here into sections, and watch this. I'm going to carry these back and I'm going to stop right there. Yes, I could go all the way to the point, but why have to do that extra work of erasing it? And try it with this one. And try it with this one. There you go. Most garage doors are like that. They have to fold and roll up or something. I know mine at home has 4 different panels. So remember that trick. Maybe you want to kind of exaggerate it here so you remember how to divide a segment into parts. It's very mathematical, this type of drawing. Divide a segment into quarters, now we're getting into fractions, and send that back toward the vanishing point. If you didn't get that to work, just stop and rewind. I think you can do it. Believe it or not, folks, you could do this backward. And here's what I mean. Once you know this system, you could draw orthogonals first. Like I'm picturing some windows up here. I don't know exactly how they're going to look yet, but watch. As I use 2 orthogonals, one here and one here, just make sure they're aiming at the vanishing point. There we go. I'm going to start with orthogonals first. Why? Because I can if I want to. And now I'll drop in some verticals. So watch this. Right here, I'm going to drop in one. Yes, I'm just freehanding these right now. You could use a straight edge if you like. Well, I think my first window is about that size, and I'll leave a little space. And I'll make another one about that size, and I'll leave a little space. And I'll make another one right here. So I am spreading those lines out and trying to make 3 different windows. And if you erase out the in-between parts, you'll have 3 windows up there. And I'll just add a few lines to make it look like they're kind of shining. Heck, let's just draw a little silhouette of a person up here. There we go. Life. Now someone lives there. Kind of cool. All right, so hopefully you got that to work. You could even do more details. For example, you could take this big segment right here and you could divide it into little sections that are equidistant all the way up. Of course, if I were doing this for a client, I would measure and have my ruler handy. But you can take these segments and you could go like this, and you could start to make bricks on this wall. They go all the way back in space. I'm not going over my garage door. I'm careful not to do that. And this would be a lot of work. And when you saw some of those drawings I showed you just a moment ago, and you saw all those bricks and all those details and textures, this is what someone did. And it takes time, but it looks cool. All right, so watch what happens once you get about where eye level is, where the horizon is. Just gonna do a few more here. You notice something about these lines and how they're kind of changing direction. Watch as my triangle is changing direction. And right about here, ooh, I'm almost horizontal because I'm almost at the horizon. And up here, ooh, I'm coming down a little bit. So if you get above the horizon or above your eye level, that's where your vanishing point is, the lines will be coming down. Maybe I'll just leave it like that. I think that looks kind of cool. But notice how all these lines just pivot. All those orthogonals just pivot on that vanishing point. So anything on this side has to be vertical or orthogonal. Okay, in fact, let's put a little key up here. It's one thing we failed to do. This is our key for today. With the exception of this roof here, everything I'm going to make is going to be vertical, horizontal, or orthogonal. That's what this means. Lines that go toward, oh boy, you didn't see that. Vertical, horizontal, or lines that go toward the vanishing point. So again, aside from the rooftop, which we call an inclined plane, pretty much everything I'm going to draw on this scene is going to be one of those three types of lines. So that might help you to remember just how easy this is or how you can do this. All right, let's have a little fun with this side of the house. I'm going to ask you to see if you can put a window on this side of the house. I'm going to do it in a minute, but I want to see if you can do it first. So go ahead and give it a try. It's very similar to this side. Remember, you could start with 2 orthogonals and drop in verticals, or you could start with a couple of verticals, just anywhere, and then do the 2 orthogonals. Let's make that a little lower. There we go. That is a strange looking diamond shape. There's no way I could have just figured that out on my own. I had to use that vanishing point and a straight edge. So it's very technical kind of drawing. It's not like drawing landscapes where everything's kind of organic and loose. And if you add a tree or take out a tree or make the leaves different, it's okay. With this kind of drawing, you better make sure that you are going toward the vanishing point. You better make sure these lines are really vertical, or else it looks kind of funky. So let's do another test. Let's see if you can put roof lines on here. Look at this segment from the rooftop down to the eave. Call this the ridge to the eave. And let's do this. Let's divide it into sections. Just dividing it in half. And I'll divide it into quarters. And then I'll divide it into eighths. This is mathematical stuff. Now, mine aren't perfect. I'm not worried about perfect. But watch this. Let's just play connect the dots like you used to when you were in kindergarten. All right, here we go. Line them up and go toward the vanishing point, but stop. I mean, you could keep going, but you just have to erase it anyway. Let's do another. And this is how you can make some lines in your roof. I used to roof houses. That's what I did in my 20s to get through college. It was the hardest work I've ever known. I'm much happier teaching. I mean, teaching's hard work. I use my brain a lot more. But roofing houses, you don't use your brain much. It's pretty easy, but it'll tear your body up. Okay, So we've got some lines on our roof. We could even make this one step better. Let's put some shingles on this roof. So watch this. I'm going to make my first row of shingles, and I'm making lines that are going parallel to the roof line here, like this. Same direction, same direction. There we go. And of course, the next row would be staggered. It would be in the middle. Shingles have to be offset so the water can't get underneath. There we go. Once you've got a couple of courses or a couple of rows of shingles, of course, you could go like this and just do every other one. And we'll take this line and do every other one, staggering them, and do the next one. Is this a lot of work? Yeah, it's kind of a pain in the you know what. But I mean, that's what the pros are doing. They're going to make it look like it's got textures and details. Of course, the pros are going to add shading and put, you know, little dots on there so it looks like asphalt shingles. So I'm not going to do the rest of this. I just really wanted to give you the formula for how to do that. If you want to do more later, you can. Now, I want to show you another X trick use. You know how we put like an X through here? Believe it or not, you can do that in perspective. So watch this. I have to do this lightly, but I'm going to make an X right over this window here so I can find the center. Right there and right there. There we go. So I have found the center of that window in perspective. Okay, I wouldn't want to guess. That would be difficult. And then you can take a line right through the middle of that vertically. There we go. And now you've got a window, kind of like I do at my house. I've got windows that slide from side to side. So you could keep it that simple if you like. Or maybe you have ones, here's the center again. Maybe you have ones that have a T, or split it up into 4 window panes. Notice how this line is going right toward the vanishing point. Look at that. Divided it into 4 sections mathematically, perfectly. So I think, you know, perspective drawing can be fun. But, you know, my mom was a math teacher and she always had us, you know, we had to do well in math class. So maybe that's, I like math. I like this stuff. Maybe this is like dreadful for you and you can't stand it, but well, at least you're learning some new way to draw. All right, let's do something else fun. Let's put some lines on our sidewalk. Now, I've seen some people do some funky stuff in the past, like this. They just start throwing lines in here, like any old which way, and they're not really thinking. Folks, there's an answer. There is a correct way to do this. Fill the sidewalk back in real quick. There we go. If it is a sidewalk, it should be flat. So we're going to need horizontal lines. Okay, things that are giving have height, things that are going up and down, like this building. Obviously, those are going to be tall. But things on the ground, like the front of this building, things should be flat. So watch this. I'm going to put my straight edge down here at the bottom, and I'm going to make a line here. Well, I might as well get, you know, kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Work smarter, not harder. There we go. There's my first row. Let's do another one right here. Notice I'm not drawing on the curb. That's this thin line here. We'll get to that in a minute. Now, as I do go back in space, I do want to make these a little bit closer each time because, of course, you know about the illusion of space size and placement. So we're making these look like they're smaller and smaller as these lines get closer and closer together. Some of you might be wondering, like, is there like a mathematical way to kind of figure out where to put those lines? Because you're just guessing, right? Well, you're right. I am just kind of eyeballing it right now. But yes, the answer is yes. I will show that later on. But there is actually an answer for this too, a way to divide up and calculate the exact space in between these. But I don't want to throw too much at you here on day one. Once you get to a certain point, I'm just going to turn my paper sideways because I prefer to draw this way. I'm just going to throw some more lines in here. And I'll use another illusion of space which is value and focus, and just let them fade out. No sense drawing every single one perfectly. There we go. In the distance, I mean, if this were a scene you were looking at, you're not going to see, lines way back there. You know it's a sidewalk, but actually I should lighten this up a little bit. So it has that illusion that it's fading off into the distance. Okay, kind of cool, right? Now you've got a sidewalk. So no more of this, lines on your sidewalk at all different angles. That's going to be maybe fun to skateboard on, but not going to be fun for an old lady to walk on. All right, let's move on. And check this out. I'll show you how to get some lines right down the middle of your road. Now I could guess and say, I think the middle of the road is right about here. Oh, maybe it is. Or, we could use the X trick and we could find the very middle. All we have to do is throw in 2 horizontal lines anywhere. I'm just picking a place. Yeah, I just threw those in. Kind of looks like a crosswalk. But make sure they're horizontal. Make sure that they're going parallel to the bottom of your page. And then, of course, I could use my X trick to find the exact middle of my road. I don't know, I hear you. It probably seems like, well, that's a lot of work to find the middle. But I want to stress 2 reasons why to do this. Number 1, it's going to be perfect. And number 2, I want you to know this trick because we can do this in 2-point perspective and 3-point, 4-point, 5-point. It all works. All right, so now I've located the very center of my road. And it looks like I was pretty darn close, but watch this. I need a sharper pencil point for this. Just a little bit. All right, here we go. I'm going to start at my vanishing point up here, and I'm just going to go on either side of this line. One there, one there. There we go. Now I've got a line going right up the middle of my road. It's mathematically centered. It's perfect. So you can get rid of the X trick, or maybe you just want to kind of erase half of it so it looks kind of dashed and you can kind of remember. Of course, because we don't have a textbook in here. We're kind of building your sketchbook is your textbook. Ooh, watch this. Now, that's one line down the middle, which sometimes you see one line on the road, usually on the side of the road, but watch this. Now, much like the sidewalk, I'm going to use more horizontals, and I'm going to make these lines closer and closer and closer as I go back in space. So again, I'm going to turn my paper because that's just more comfortable for me, and make these closer and closer. And by the time you get out here, boy, they're just going to disappear anyway, so I wouldn't worry too much about that. Now, you're probably saying to yourself, isn't there space between the lines? Yes, there is. That's why I'm going to erase half of these. Like maybe I'll erase this one. I still remember the first time I learned this trick, I thought, man, that is pretty cool. It's like drawing magic tricks. And we'll erase that one. And let's erase that one. And you just take half of them away, and they'll kind of spread out. And out here, I'm not too worried about making it perfect. There we go. Let's just make those fade out. There we go. Off in the distance. Can't really even see what's going on. All right. Now we're having fun now. Okay. This is a strange scene. It's in the middle of nowhere. It's like we're in the desert, and we've got a bank and a basic building over here. So let's do this. I want to put some telephone poles over in this area. So here's what I'd like you to do. Draw yourself one telephone pole that goes up like this. Maybe it goes above and below the horizon. We'll just kind of ground it so it looks kind of like a tree trunk. So let me zoom in on my telephone pole. You can see I'm not going to get super detailed here, but just make it look like a tall wooden pole. There we go. And to make it look more like a telephone pole, of course, we can just jazz it up with a couple of horizontal wood pieces, and maybe there's some little transformers up here. There's a little bird hanging out up here. All right. Now, Well, if you think about it, what we're really doing is step two. Let's zoom out here. We're drawing a shape. Of course, this time we kind of drew a thing, which is fine. Now watch this. I'm going to go from the bottom of my telephone pole toward the vanishing point lightly. Oh, don't draw on top of your house. And continue that way. And I'll do another one here from the top of my telephone pole, not the bird, but the top of the telephone pole toward my vanishing point. And now I've got two orthogonals to guide me, to help me draw more telephone poles. So watch this. Maybe I'll put one, I wouldn't want to put it on top of the house, then it would be tangent with the top of the peak here. Let's just move it over here. Maybe, I don't want it to touch that either. I'll put one right here. That might be a little close, but I'm using the two orthogonals that I just drew to help me figure out where the next pole goes. It should fit inside of those two lines. And maybe this next one is right here. Yeah, that's not really interfering with my house much. There we go. And another one right here. And now we can get back to the ground. There's one right here. Boy, by the time you get back here, they might just look like a line. And maybe start to make them lighter. Ooh, yeah. I like to make things lighter in the distance. I want to zoom in there. I really lighten my pressure and just try to make them look like they're fading off to the distance. All right, so we can get rid of these orthogonals now. I hope you did those lightly, because you don't want people to realize like how you made this. Just let them think you're a genius and that you can just do this on your own, just freehand. Yeah, it's no big deal. There we go. All right. So, I mean, that could be a fence. Well, I've already made a telephone pole here, but you would use the same approach if you wanted to make this like a fence line or something. So, of course, you could dress these up a little more. I'm going to keep it really simple because we've got more work to do. But, you know, you do some things like that. And if you want to take it further, you could even, you know, string some telephone lines. It's funny, we're drawing telephone poles because I have a feeling that by the time you're my age, these things will be gone. Just a prediction. I'm not a futurist, but in my mind, I just don't see us, you know, hanging up telephone lines from poles and power lines being the same way. I mean, in the future, everything will be buried underground and everything will be just Bluetooth and, you know, satellites and Wi-Fi. So we are evolving, living in a pretty cool and crazy time. All right, so we've got some telephone poles. Let's do a little fun in the background. This scene is boring. I'm gonna try to bring my horizon back into view a bit more here. There we are. Now you guys know about landscapes, so hey, let's make a fun landscape here. Maybe there's a hill here, some mountains in the distance. There we go. And I'm just gonna quickly, lightly just put in a little bit of shading on these. Just roughing it in. This is how I like to sketch. You know, just liven it up a little bit, which means, based on how I shaded it, that the sun is up here. There we go. Oh, let's have a couple birds in our scene. Let's liven it up a little bit. And how about a couple clouds? You guys already know about all this stuff. There you go. All right, man, this is starting to look like a pretty cool scene here. So the only other stuff I would add is, you know, these buildings are kind of boring. A lot of times around buildings, you have, you know, shrubs and trees on the corners. I know from my brother's a landscaper. He says that it softens the lines of the house. It makes it look like it's more at one with the surroundings. So that's kind of cool to do stuff like that. Maybe I'll just add a rock over here, so you can do that kind of stuff. A little shadow on that. Oh yeah, how about some shadows on these telephone poles? There's the sun, so just go that way. That can be kind of fun. Let's do one final thing. This will be the test for the day. See if you can make your sidewalk go around to this door. Now, I should tell you, you're going to need, well, horizontals, because we're on the ground, and you're going to need orthogonals, because we're going toward the vanishing point. So you could just kind of fake it and go like this. And, well, to me, that doesn't look very good. Watch this. I'm going to go, first I'm going to go to the right. And I'm going to, let's zoom in here. I'm going to make a line that goes over this way. There we are. Just trying to continue with this existing line I've got. And now I need that vanishing point. So I'm going to have to zoom out a little bit. There we go. So watch this. You're going to want to line up your vanishing point with the left side of the door right here. Line them up and go this way. And I'm going to do the same with the right side of the door. So you might want to put your pencil there, put your straight edge next to it, and then go rock it until it sees the vanishing point. There we go. And continue. Looks like mine's going to go right off the page, and that's okay. I like when things are cropped off the edge. It makes it seem more realistic. All right. That's actually how that would work. I mean, yeah, you could throw in some silly curve, but this is more accurate. And you know what? We should probably divide this, and you can tell where you need a line here. Just all these lines are going toward the vanishing point. So let's just make one more going that way. And let's do one that's horizontal here. There we go. Awesome. There's one thing we didn't do, and that's the curb. We haven't really messed with that, but check this out. You can make your curb look a little better by doing this and just having these lines go down. So notice how horizontals make things look flat, but verticals, or curvy verticals like these, will give the impression that it's going downward because the lines are going up and down. That just makes sense. Things that are horizontal, going to look flat. Things that go up and down, they're going to look like they go up and down. So you could bring them straight down if you want, if that's your thing, or you could just kind of curve them a little bit. And of course, if you add a little shading in there, oops, that was not a good shading. If you add some shading on the sides, that will really make it look like it's going down. Because of course the light will illuminate the tops of the sidewalk, but the sides of the curb, they're not going to catch as much sun because they're facing, you know, they're vertical. So just a little fun fact for you. All right, we could have a lot more fun with this scene and take it a lot further, but I think I've got you the basics. So remember that X trick, remember the key. Again, yes, I threw some organic and strange things in here, but pretty much everything is, there's lots of horizontals in this work, lots of verticals in this work, and lots of orthogonals, or things that go toward the vanishing point. So that's the basics of a one-point exterior. There's, obviously you saw from the student examples, people took it a lot further. But I hope you got that to work. This is one possible solution for your final perspective drawing. Hey, thanks for showing up today. Have an awesome day.